Okay, so yesterday we finished up chapter 11, or right up to what we're going to cover today. We talked about vehicle speed. What do we say about vehicle speed? How do we determine how fast to go? Most classes just yell out the speed limit, but what have we learned about the speed limit? How do we determine how fast we should go? The conditions, the car we talked about, right? The road, all the things go into it, right? Not just the speed limit. Weather conditions, we talked about fog, low beam, fog lights, slow down, rain, no cruise control, lights on, high winds, slow down, watch out for other things, rain, sleet we talked about, winter driving, remove all the blockage, careful on bridges, careful when you're braking, leave a little earlier. Then we talked about what to do if you lose a tire or you have a blowout, how to handle steering failure, brake failure, headlight failure, a stuck gas pedal or blocked vision. Interstate driving, use your blinkers, give more room when you're following, miss an exit, go to the next exit, don't use the turnarounds. Driving at night, don't overdrive your lights. Difficulty seeing on country roads because of crops, weeds, things like that. Slow down prior to the curve. What to do in a head-on approach, and how I told you there's no one answer. It's dependent upon what's going on around us. When we skid, what do we have to resist? If we skid to the right, don't just yank it to the left, right? You want to kind of gain control before you try to go against the skid. How to handle going off the pavement, what to do in a fire situation, get yourself out, get people out, don't worry about anything else. Water crash, get out of the window as soon as possible. Wireless phone, distracted driving, carbon monoxide poisoning, how to handle if live wires are on our car, explosive fire, and today's important one, being pulled over. Okay, a few years ago they implemented that they would really like for us to emphasize how to handle being pulled over. So Gavin, head up today. Pay attention. Okay, so what you would deal with, you guys are going to watch this the whole time? So we're driving along, and all of a sudden, we see sirens, right? We look in our rear view, and cop is pulling us over. What should we do? Pull over. But where should we pull over? Safest spot we can find, right? Find a safe spot. Get far off the road so the cop has room for safety. If the cop feels unsafe, the cop may go to your passenger side, right? So be prepared to roll that window down if necessary. Let's say I'm driving along and I get pulled over, and when I look back there or I saw the car, it didn't have any markings on it. Could I think that somebody's falsely pulling me over? If I feel unsafe, can I continue to a public place to be pulled over? Yes. Can you try to evade them by doing that? No. So as long as you go at a slow pace and pull over to like a shopping center, if you're in the middle of nowhere, you pull over to somewhere next to somebody's house, you just want to pull over somewhere safe, and they ask you why do you keep going, and you say, I wanted to make sure that I pulled over to a very safe place. That should be okay, right? But again, attitude. The other thing that's important to understand from the very get-go here is, whatever you do towards the cop, are they going to kind of give to you in return? So it's kind of the speech I gave to you guys on the first day of this class, right? If you are rude or disrespectful towards me, what do I have to do to you? Do I have to treat you differently? So does the same thing happen for cops? So if I am respectful and polite to a cop, am I going to get that in return? You should. Are cops humans? Yes. Do they make mistakes? Yes, right? We all do. Can cops have bad days where maybe they're on edge? Do you have bad days where you're on edge? Yes or no? Are you perfect every day? So we all have bad days, right? So understand that that cop could be having a bad day. And can your actions push it over the top? Yeah, so in a way, we play a part in this. But does that also mean that at times cops maybe do overstep their bounds or screw up? Yes, what did I just say? They're humans, aren't they? They're not robots. So they make bad decisions as well. But in the end, I still believe it comes down to us. What we give them is what we get. So if you're rude or disrespectful to a cop, you're probably going to get that back from them, plus tickets, right? Whereas if you are super respectful, they may just let it all slide, because they can do that. So we pulled over, right? Now what do we do? What's the next step? Do you have to roll down your window? I roll down my window today, am I going to be a happy camper sitting there waiting? Pretty cold, right? So theoretically, you don't have to instantly roll down your window. If it's a nice day, is that okay to do? Yes. But what's important to do is, look up here, and put it in park. Put what on? Put it in park already, right? So what do we put on when we put our car in park on the side of the road? Nope, you don't have to do that. I mean, you could. Hazards, flashers, right? Indicators that we're on the side of the road. They already got their lights on, so they kind of get it. But putting a little extra flash out there, it's better for everybody's safety. So put the flashers on. Then what you probably should do is, again, roll down the windows and turn the car off if it's a nice day. If it is not a nice day, I would assume they'd be okay if you leave the car running as long as you have the car in park. And what do we need to do with our hands? Do we want to be moving our hands around, grabbing stuff? Hands should be where? Up, visible, right? So if I'm the driver, where do I put my hands? On the steering wheel, right? If I am in the passenger seat, where should I put my hands? On the dashboard, right? If I'm in the back seat, where should I put my hands? On the seat in front of me. Because if the cop can see hands and doesn't see movement, does that put them at ease? Because if the cop sees a bunch of movement going on, hands moving, what do they have to start thinking here? Are you hiding stuff? Are you grabbing stuff? Could be weapons, right? Does that put them on edge? But if you do this right, where hands visible, they're going to calm down a little bit, right? So as they approach, hands should be up and visible. Should we already have grabbed our license and all that stuff? Don't start reaching for that stuff. Just relax. So we pulled over, put the car in park, we put the flashers on. We'll act like it's today. So we left the car running, right? We got the window up. Cop is going to approach your vehicle. Whichever side the cop approaches, what do we need to do? Roll down that window, okay? So window rolls down. Cop is probably going to say what? What's the first thing they say when you watch videos? They may not even ask yet why they pulled you over. What's the first thing they're going to probably do? Can I get your license and registration? You say, okay. Do you just start reaching for stuff? What do you do? Anybody know? Yeah, you tell them, right? Can I grab my wallet from my pocket? Can I grab my registration from the glove compartment? Because now are you telling them what you're doing? And by telling them what you're doing, what does that do for them? Does that put them at ease compared to you just randomly grabbing stuff? Okay, so you tell them what you're doing. I'm grabbing my license, I'm grabbing my registration. You hand that to them, okay? And then they hold on to that. And then at that point, they're probably going to say, do you know what you did? Correct? If you know what you did, should you just confess and be honest? Because does lying make it better? So if I knew I was speeding, what should I probably say? Yeah, I might have been speeding there a little bit. If I don't truly know what I did, what should I say? No, ma'am, no, sir, I don't know what I did. Can you please tell me? But how did I just say it? Was that very respectful? No, ma'am, no, sir, I don't know what I did. Could you please tell me? By saying that, does that make him feel good? Because what am I giving him? Her respect? You know, I'm being respectful, hoping to get what in return? Same thing from them, right? So then they'll probably say, okay, I got you doing this, this, and this. You're like, okay. So, cop says you were speeding. And you say, okay, I'm not going to deny it, right? I was, I guess. Cop is then going to go back to their car. When the cop goes back to the car, at that point, what's the cop doing? He's probably checking all your stuff, right? Because theoretically, when the cop goes up to the window already, does he have an idea of who you are already? How so? What do they do before they even go to the window? They run the plates, right? So whatever plate that car is registered under, that's who they think it is. So let's say we pull over Brody, but the car is registered to mom and dad, right? They're going to probably be like, you are Brody. Car says, whoever, mom and dad are. Is that mom and dad? Like, yeah. Because at times, you know, like in my case, let's say my oldest daughter's my stepdaughter, different last name, right? So if my car is registered to Barr and she's Metler, could that be somewhat of a red flag to a cop? Because in a way, does that make him start thinking illegal car? But then my daughter would say, this is registered to my mom and stepdad, right? Again, so they know who you are somewhat, so now they're going to go back and run your license. What are they looking for when they run your license, though? Previous activity, right? Because do they have a list of everything you've done? Does that play a factor in what happens to you? Can you believe that, guys? Like, you guys are all shaking your head, yes, but at times we'll get students in trouble. And they'll be like, you're picking on me. I'm like, what do you mean I'm picking on you? Well, you always yell at me. Well, why would we always yell at you? Is it because your actions are poor? And then your previous poor actions, does that affect what we do to you in that moment? So the same thing plays out here, right? If you got this long rap sheet of speeding tickets, are they going to let you off the speeding ticket? No. But if they go to search your record and you have no speeding tickets, are they going to be like, first-time offender? Maybe I'll let them off? Is that a possibility? Again, what were your previous actions in the conversation? What does your record say, right? This is all getting played into this. So they run your record's clean. You were respectful, cop is having a good day. The cop says, I'm going to write him a warning. So they come back to the window. Cop says, well, it's your lucky day. Everything checks out. I'm going to write you a warning. Here's your warning. Here's your license. What should you do at that moment? Thank you, right? Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Okay, same scenario plays out. giving you a ticket. Cop hands you the ticket. What should you do? Thank you. Should it really change your reaction either way here? Because did you do something wrong? Yes. And is there any point in giving attitude? Because do people do that? And then what could that only probably lead to? More trouble, right? So in the end, should you just thank them no matter what? Even if you hate it? Thanks. Because by getting the ticket, signing the ticket, and all that stuff, does that mean that you're guilty? When are you truly guilty of this crime? When the judge says what? Guilty, right? Until the judge says guilty, are you innocent? And don't they always say that on these cheesy law shows? You know what I'm talking about? Like Judge Judy, where they're yelling at each other. And then at the end, they're like, everybody is presumed innocent until right? That's true, though, right? So even if you are mad about this ticket and you want to fight it, does it matter in that moment? Go in front of the judge, apply for a court date, fight it there. Does that make sense? So there's no use getting totally out of shape about something because you're not guilty yet until the judge says guilty. This is key to understand, like when I'm rewinding back. That first exchange, when you hand them license and registration, is key to trying to talk yourself out of a ticket. Being polite. Like once they have already gone back to the car and they come back with the ticket, are they going to rip up the ticket once they wrote it? It's done, right? So before they go back to their car is that precious little window there where you have to try to smooth talk the cop, right? Be respectful, but try your best to get out of the ticket. It's okay, right? There's multiple thoughts on that. Some of it is they say they're putting their fingerprint on there in case you run away. They can prove my fingerprint was on there. Check it right there to prove the whole deal. Also, they say it's because of static. You ever notice this time of year, like when you touch stuff, when it's really dry out, you get that pop? A lot of times they say they do that to ground themselves out so that when you do that exchange, you don't get that pop because that startles everybody, right? So that's kind of a little bit, I don't know, because there's a video that I play and they do that in the videos. Every cop that comes by does like a touch or a thumb or something on the car. And those are the things I Googled and said, why do they do that? And those are different reasons why they gave us. So that's kind of what it is. And I'll give you my own personal story. It's about 3 years ago now, I think it was. I was driving to work on the interstate by Greenville. And construction, remember that all that nasty construction was going on? There was construction everywhere. No matter where I went, there was construction. So that was the fastest way for me to get to work. So they had construction. I took the Pocahontas exit. I got on the interstate, and there was nothing, right, for the first little bit. So I set my cruise, and then I would hit the first section of construction. I would turn my cruise off and slow down. And then construction went away. So then what did I do? Turn the cruise back on. And then when the construction started back up, I would have slowed down. Make sense? Kind of playing it out here. So I'm driving along. Turn my cruise off, slow down, get through that construction. I hit my cruise back on. And I'm driving along. And all of a sudden, cops behind me. Lights on. I'm like, okay. So I blinker, I pull over. Cop says, do you know why I pulled you over? And I said, honestly, I have no clue. He goes, well, you were speeding. I said, I was? I said, what's the speed limit here right now? I said, because I was literally going 72 and a 70. And he goes, well, you were going 72. And I said, well, I thought I was. I was like, isn't it 70? He goes, well, yeah, except for there's construction going on. It's 55. And I said, oh. I said, I was under the impression that the construction was back there, then it stopped, and you could go back, and then when the next construction started, then it would start again, because there was like a couple mile gap. And he's like, no, the construction zone is this entire zone. I'm like, okay. And he said, well, can I ask where you're going? I said, I'm heading to school to teach kids about driving. And he laughed and he gave me my license back. Why? Was I honest the entire time? Did I try to deny anything? So in a way, like, did the fact that I was a teacher doing driver's ed help me? It didn't hurt. But the fact that I could laugh about it and be truthful the whole time and be respectful, did it lead to the fact that he just said, go about your way, just slow down next time? Because I didn't really do anything wrong. Was it kind of like a shady little trap? And they were catching a lot of people probably doing it, because I'm sure everybody was kind of under my impression of, will you speed up during the middle? But the fact that I was only going 72 in a 70, did that help me out as well? What if I was going 80? Am I probably getting a ticket there? Because now 80 in a 70 is 10 over. 80 in a 55 would be really bad, right? So again, that whole scenario is just trying to show you where, be honest, right? Be polite, joke with them a little bit, and then hopefully go about your way. So those are some key things. So what are the key things you picked out of that? What's the most important thing I've stressed to you during this 20-minute spiel so far? What's that? Respect, right? It just comes down to respect. The other thing that is important to understand that a lot of people don't understand is the way you talk and your reactions and your body language. Does that mean a lot? Like at times, I don't know if your generation gets that, because my older daughter and my wife, I always have to tell them this. Like, they'll say something and I'm like, I think I'm in like deep trouble. What did I do? Like, nothing, I'm fine. I'm like, are you really? Because the way you're saying it, what your body language is, does it say something in itself? So even if you're trying to be respectful, can you seem rude by doing it? If you're doing something, you have a question or are you stretching? No. I was saying, because it was like I didn't know where you're going there. But that's like, it's important just to understand that everything you do means something. The way you use the words, the sounds you use, the face expressions, it's all giving off something. So make sure you're doing nothing but respect, respect, respect when you're doing that stuff, okay? This is important, too, to understand down here. I told you at the beginning there, cops make mistakes, don't they? So if a cop is rude or disrespectful to you, is that okay? They're not allowed to do that, right? So if you feel like the cop did something wrong to you, is it okay to notify somebody? Is it probably good to do that? Be like, I just got pulled over by officer such and such, because it should be on the ticket if you got a ticket, right? Or they should have told you in the exchange. And this happened, and I just want to be on record that I felt wrong. Because if all of a sudden that's like the sixth person that's called and complained about that officer, do we have a problem? Or in general, if that's the first time that's ever happened, the person might say, well, this is the first time that we've ever heard this from officer such and such. I will check on that and let you know. But if it's like the sixth or seventh time, do we have a problem that they need to address? But they don't know if we don't tell them, right? So again, if something bad happens where you feel like you were wronged, let them know, right? It's okay to let somebody know that. Because like I said, the officer is required to give you name and badge. Can you videotape this stuff? Yes, but what is the issue with videotaping it? if during this entire time we're talking, I'm going like this to you, how do you feel? Do you feel great about this? That respect thing that we talked about? Like, if I have my phone slapped in your face while we're having this conversation, do I feel very respected? No. So, yes, you can do that by law, but, right? Should you maybe ask them? Be like, for legal reasons, can I please turn my phone on? If they say no, is that illegal for them to say no? Yeah. But by asking at least, is it better than like slapping it in your face? But still, by slapping it in your face, is it still going to feel disrespectful? So do you have to be careful on these things? Yes, you have the legal right to do that. But again, me sitting up here talking to you guys is one thing, but me going like this the whole time while I'm doing, do you feel weird right now? Yeah. Do you think they're going to feel weird? And you shove a phone in their face and videotape them? So that's why you got to be careful. It's because it's one of these things like, this makes me uncomfortable, right? So that's some keys there. Questions on any of this stuff? Pretty straightforward? Okay, next thing we're going to do here is I'm going to put a video on. I'm pretty sure. I thought I saved this video, but then when I went to my saved links, I couldn't find it. So that's why I was doing a quick Google search for it. And the only thing that scares me is something bad being on the video. Because sometimes when you type in videos, watch this is a scenario kind of what to do.
2210 code 18, Milford Creek Lane.
You've just witnessed a driver, distracted by her cell phone, fail to stop at a stop sign. This infraction was observed by a law enforcement officer. As the officer pulls behind this driver, he begins the process of conducting a traffic stop. He notifies a radio dispatcher his location, the tag displayed on the violator's vehicle, and a brief description of the vehicle being stopped. The driver has not noticed the emergency vehicle with its emergency lights activated, leading the officer to activate his siren. Georgia law requires a driver to yield to an emergency vehicle by maneuvering their vehicle to the right as quickly and safely as possible. But if the area doesn't appear to be safe or well lit, Georgia law allows a motorist to activate their hazard lights before driving to a safe, well-lit area. The activation of the hazard lights lets the officer know that the driver is aware of the officer behind them.
So I didn't mention that, but is that probably a good idea if you're going to do that? Because like I said, this is Georgia law, so could there be some differences? Sure. But like I said, this video was pretty good in the past, and it is the right one. But like I said, good tip, right? If you're going to keep going to a safe place, put the hazards on, so at least they know that you know that they're there.
And that driver is looking for a safe place to pull over. Should you be pulled over for a traffic violation by a law enforcement officer, doing the following may help minimize any tension or stress of the situation. 1, ensure the vehicle is in park. 2, if you're listening to the radio, turn it down or off completely.
Turn it off. We used to have a video by the Carbondale police where they'd leave the radio on. What is that again? That's disrespectful, right? Just turn it off. There's no point in it being on.
3, roll down your driver's side window. If you have tinted windows, and if it's possible, roll down all of your windows to remove any obstruction to the officer's view. 4, place your hands on the steering wheel and wait for the officer. And 5, if it's dark outside, turn on your interior light. The officer will make his or her approach and identify him or herself and explain the reason for the traffic stop.
Hey, I'm Officer Chalk with Cobb County Police Department. The reason I'm stopping you is you disregarded the stop sign back there. Do you have your driver's license with you?
The officer will ask the driver for their driver's license. The driver should tell the officer where their driver's license is located, inside a purse, center console, glove box, or other location prior to retrieving it. This explains your movements prior to making them to the officer. Georgia law requires a driver to have their valid driver's license with them while operating a motor vehicle and to provide it to an officer when requested. If you have a weapon inside your vehicle, please notify the officer prior to.
Why would you have a weapon in your car? Yeah, so if you got concealed and carry, is it better just to say that you have concealed and carry right off the bat and just say, I'm concealed and carry, I have my gun with me, and then they're going to say, is it put away? You'll say, yes, it's put away. Do they maybe know already that you have concealed and carry? How? When they ran your name, it probably, I don't know how their system works, but I'm assuming when that pops up, it probably says conceal and carry, right? So in a way, are they expecting to maybe hear that from you? And again, by being honest, does that take some tension away? Yes, so make sure you understand and communicate these things.
To retrieving your license. This informs the officer that a weapon is present. Just follow the officer's instruction on retrieving your driver's license. There are occasions that an officer may approach the driver from the passenger side of the vehicle. Don't be alarmed. This type of approach is generally based on traffic conditions or the location of the traffic stop. The officer may ask you to remain inside your vehicle during the traffic stop. Please follow the officer's instructions, as this is done for the safety of all parties present. The officer will return to his patrol vehicle. Generally, a driving status and warrant check will be conducted while completing a traffic citation. The officer will return to your vehicle and explain the traffic citation. While issuing the citation, the officer will tell you that your signature is not an admission of guilt, but acceptance of the traffic citation and your assurance of the court summons. Located on the back of your citation is a phone number should you have any questions or concerns. If you'll use the tips we've outlined for you, you'll have a more pleasant and safer interaction when involved in a traffic stop.
Okay, another thing on there that I failed to mention somewhat is there any reason you should ever try to exit your vehicle? Is that a huge no-no? Because believe it or not, at one point during driver's education training type, they taught us to get out of the car. You do that now, you're asking for trouble. All right? Never leave the vehicle unless what? Told to do so. If you exit the vehicle without being told to do so, they are probably going to draw some weapon on you. Because they have no clue why you're doing that, right? Because there's no reason to do that. The other thing I would mention that I kind of said there is like the light. You see how they said put the light on? Is that something I would do without their permission? I don't know if I would. I would wait to do it and ask them, do you want my light on? Because by clicking on the light, again, you're moving hands, right? So just leave your light off, hang tight. They have a flashlight, right? If it's night, for that reason. So those are some tips and some things there. Any questions on any of that stuff? Pretty good? Does it make sense on how you're supposed to handle this? And the nice thing is, I like when